Welcome to the Time Tunnel Records podcast, brought to you by Time Tunnel Records Store. Join us as we talk about music old and new, tell stories about recordings and the lives of those who sang and played the songs, and share some of our own personal musical memories and opinions. Here's Matt and Daryl.
Anyhow, that's, I guess, our intro song. We're here with Matt. Is that how you acknowledge yourself and go out in the community by Matt?
Yeah, everyone knows me as Matt or Matthew.
Mather.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we're here on the very first, I don't even know what we call this, some kind of a podcast.
Snodcast.
Snodcast. I think there's already something like that out there. Yeah. Smodcast or something.
All right.
Yeah, Snotcast.
Yeah.
But over here at Time Tunnel Records.
Yeah.
And we just thought that it would be fun to kind of meet and talk about a couple of different things. If anybody actually hears this and wants to help us come up with any ideas about the format or a name for the show,
yeah,
we'll
listen.
We absolutely have no idea. You have a pretty good chance of being able to participate. You could even help do some of the audio technical stuff if you want to too, the audio visual technical. So what you up to?
Man, just putting out records and more records, and I'm always looking to find things that interest me to put in the store and things I think other people would like. So
we got to clarify when you say putting out records that this is a record store and you're putting them out to sell.
That's right.
And because when I know you're a musician as well, and the old terminology about putting out records is
right,
you're going into the recording studio,
right.
And
with the name Time Tunnel Records. A couple people in the past did ask if I was a record label, and I had to clarify.
We very well could become some kind of a portal to the people jumping in and becoming part of the record label for the first time. So we're always willing to take some. If somebody's got something that's completely like badass and thinks that somebody else would want to listen to it,
that's right. It might even be me.
Let us know. So great. Well, what about? So let's see. It's August, something like that. The 11th.
The 11th. Yeah.
August 11th. What's the big music news or big music gossip around for any particular kind of music whatsoever that you've been hearing about?
Well, one thing that's been going through the music world is I went to see Van Halen.
Like July 4th or something.
Yeah, it's the 5th. It was the day
July
after.
4th weekend or something.
Yeah. And it was at the White River Amphitheater, another fantastic show.
Yeah,
nice. They were one of my biggest.
That must have been a blast
bands,
going there and coming home, huh?
No, it wasn't so bad.
Really?
Yeah, I guess crazy. I rode with the right friend, man. We got in there. Got out,
He knew what it was up.
Yeah. We
I
parked
went to
strategically.
that place once years ago, and it was such a disaster. Yeah, it was kind of a nightmare.
No, it wasn't like.
I got home the next day, I think. But anyhow, tell us about the show and what's the big music news about that.
It was awesome. It was an awesome show.
Was that sold out or no?
I don't know. I think it was. I mean, it was full. So it must have been.
I have no idea.
But I really don't know.
We're gonna take a break, and he's gonna answer the phone.
Time Tunnel Records. But anyway.
Now that we're back here, Matt's answered the phone. We're getting the calls coming in from the customers while we're on the phone, which is kind of neat. So anyhow, let's hear about the big Van Halen. Is there some kind of story about it?
Yeah,
what's going on with them?
The exciting thing about this tour was that they were they put out Wolfgang, Eddie's son. Because of his age, he's big into social media. He's, I think, 24, so he's always, posting on Instagram. So that's a part about Van Halen.
Yeah, he's glued to that cell phone or whatever.
Right, so Van Halen, and when I was growing up, you only heard about him if you read something in a magazine or if a new video came out or something, or it was the MTV days, so they'd interview bands from time to time, but... And
there's no avenues for that anymore.
Right. So... prior to the tour starting, Wolfgang would post from time to time a snippet. You can do like a 15-second snippet on Instagram, and he posts a video snippet of a rehearsal. And so he put up a handful of tunes, you know, that
they
they were
new
gonna
tunes,
that
or
they
what?
were well, no, they weren't new.
Yeah.
They did play some new songs from their last album
Yeah.
from 2012, A Different Kind of Truth. But the thing that was cool about this tour is that the snippets he posted were of a couple songs that they hadn't played since
Like that
79
guy.
and 80.
Yeah.
And then there were two songs that they played, Dirty Movies from the 81 album Fair Warning, and Drop Dead Legs off of 1984
Wow.
that they'd never played live before. So
Yeah,
it was the first time they were played live was here in Seattle, which was awesome because those are two of my favorite songs.
Cool.
Yeah, they're funky, you know.
Yeah.
I always thought Van Halen was more a funk rock band than a heavy metal band. You know, that's just my personal.
Well, I think by
thought.
the time, I mean, they definitely were, even on their first album.
They're all the way back then, you know.
Their covers and stuff were always a little funky.
Well, think about their repertoire when they were a bar band,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
In the 70s.
that song "Ice Cream Man," that's
Yeah.
kind of a funky tune. That was
Right.
weird.
It had the brothers played with their dad, who was a jazz
I was gonna say,
saxophonist.
It's almost like a barbershop.
Yeah. He was a jazz saxophonist and clarinet
Yeah.
player. He played, you know.
Just a gigolo.
So
they did
yeah,
that song.
so they grew up playing with their dad.
Swing and stuff.
Swing,
even.
yeah, they had
Nice.
that natural swing in them. So naturally, their music had that vibe too, you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that makes a
so
lot
that
of
set them
sense.
apart from all the other bands that were coming up as well. But about the tour, about the show, them playing those tunes was a big bonus.
Yeah.
So it got a lot of people excited. But one thing that a lot of people that maybe put them in a bad light was they did a performance on the Jimmy Kimmel live.
Yeah,
You know.
he had got his nose broke.
Well,
or
David
something,
Lee
or cut or
Roth.
something.
David Lee Roth came out, and you know, he's still for 60 years old, man.
Yeah.
His body's better looking than
Yeah.
most 20-something-year-olds. You know.
Yeah.
You know, he's just always been in the peak physical shape. You know, he's a martial artist and you know, athletic build. You know, but
What, did
his
he fell
voice-
off the stage or something.
no, he was twirling a microphone stand around,
Yeah.
and he bopped himself in the nose. You couldn't really see it,
Yeah.
you know, happen, but.
I'd say thank goodness.
But-
Whatever
but it
happened
was-
to the
but-
time where people did that
Right,
on purpose,
right.
like years
They made
ago,
a big
man.
deal about it, but what the cool thing was that happened was because it was live, the band had to keep jamming, you know.
That's like
So
how rock and roll,
so,
man. That's
so the
like
band
the most
just
rock and roll
yeah,
thing
right,
we've done in
right.
years.
So the band was
Nice.
just kept on going. So you got to hear they were playing Panama, so you got to
Yeah.
hear Eddie kind of stretch out and just
Yeah.
improvise, which was great
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they're good at, and you haven't gotten that from.
Because he wasn't singing the whole time.
Right.
so
Well,
he
think
was
about it.
making up
When's
for those spots, so-
right? So when's the last time you saw a band actually do that? One of those older bands that's been around. They don't do that. They just go out there and they play their songs by
Yeah.
the book. You
like
know.
the Stones do Brown
Yeah,
Sugar
right.
and
Yeah,
Jumpin' Jack
yeah.
Flash.
You're not gonna get too much stretching out. They just run through
Yeah.
the hits or do a medley, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see them on TV. Well, it wasn't on TV. It was on the internet. On TV, after they put a Band-Aid on Dave or whatever, he came back and then they recut the track, and that's the one that was on.
So what were they
on
saying
TV.
about his singing in general on
Well,
that show?
you know.
Because they, of course, been beating him up for that for
Yeah,
years.
well, after that, I mean, Dave's never been Steve Perry, let's be
Yeah.
real, or Paul Rogers, you know,
Yeah.
he's always been more of a performer, showman.
Or Ian Gillan.
Right, yeah, well, it's probably closer to Ian Gillan with those screams, but I'll even do you one better. He's more probably close to like the guy from Ohio Players, Sugarfoot, you know. As a matter of fact, there's a song they have called Fire, the Ohio Players. Yeah.
The way you walk.
Or no, not
Really
Fire. It's
sets me off.
Love Roller Coaster. At the beginning, of Love Roller Coaster, there's a scream that goes, "Ow!" And
Sounds like David Lee.
David
Roth.
Lee Roth does that scream to this day,
Yeah.
or he
So
did
how was
do
his
it.
singing at the show?
I thought he was fine, man. You know, there was probably one song or two where he maybe went off the ranch a little bit, but I thought he was fine, and other people have had their opinions throughout the tour, but it's been a successful tour thus far. They received high marks mostly for the musicianship and that side of it. Also Dave, he's always been
Well, he's been doing it for 40 years.
right. Well, the one thing that a lot of people didn't notice before was he always had a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he talked a lot of, he was like the consummate performer because
Sure,
he
yeah,
had the audience in the palm of his hand. He could tell a story.
He was kind of a
Yeah.
douche.
So
Yeah.
he can still tell a story really
Yeah.
good. So people they'll listen, and he'll get their attention.
It's like Peter Wolf, like the storyteller.
Right,
Yeah.
And he still uses that to his advantage at some points in the show. But he doesn't have the ability to jump off the drum riser and do a mid-air split. I mean, he's 60 years old. Who could do that?
Yeah.
Prince doesn't
Well, he could do it,
that
but why
anymore.
should he?
Well, no, he'd probably break his legs or
there you
I mean, why go through all that?
Yeah.
He still kicks his leg up in the air, and at least this year this tour, previous tour I saw him in 07, I think, and he was bouncing around on this like humongous blow up microphone. So people were probably happy not to see that, but that was like the big arena show, and this was more amphitheater setting, so it was more,
Yeah.
it was just like, going to see an old concert back in the day, it was fun.
I remember seeing Etta James at the Paramount like 10 years ago, right before she died. It
Oh,
was
no
so
way.
sad, man. They like carried her out there
Really?
and stuff. It was, she was like so sick and stuff.
Oh, that's terrible.
So anyhow, so what's up with Van Halen? Are they going to put out any new material? Or are
You
they
know,
gonna take a break? Or are they done with? Or was this their
no,
last tour,
I
or
don't
what?
know. They're not calling it a farewell tour. I think
Yeah.
they still have more in the tank, but I know they haven't said what they're doing so much as a band, but right now they're just touring. They put out a live album recently. I haven't really given it too much of a listen. I've heard some select tracks off of it, but I think most fans of theirs would prefer to hear an actual live album from their classic era, when they were with Michael Anthony and they were making the something from the Six Pack,
Basically their first 5 albums.
Yeah, first 5 or 6 records,
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
from that era. If you're gonna put something out,
Anything up to, 1984 or
yeah,
something?
yeah. We don't need to hear any of the Sham Hagar stuff, so or Van Hagar, I should call it. But to me, that was
Well, we'll keep our eyes and our ears open for that.
But one thing I know, Wolfgang Van Halen is working on a solo
I did
album.
hear that, yeah.
And he also plays bass with Tremonti, the guitar player that used to be
That's
in
like a punk
Alter.
band or something, isn't it? Or
No,
like
they're
not
more
punk,
like more rock,
but punk or pop punk.
What
or
was the
something,
group?
aren't they?
Well, no, the guy he used to be the guitar player for Creed and Alter Bridge.
Oh yeah.
it's more rock.
Oh, he's playing with that
yeah,
guy.
big rock music. But
That guy's
yeah.
a great guitar
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's,
yeah. So
I
he's
like
yeah.
take or leave some of their music,
Yeah.
but I mean, you can't deny that it's like rock and roll.
Right, yeah. So this stuff I think is a lot heavier
Oh, even
than any
heavier,
of that
nice.
stuff. Yeah, and
I did not know that that's who he was playing with.
Yeah. They just put an album out called Cauterize, I believe. But Wolfgang's got a solo record he's playing.
Is he on it? That Wolfgang guy's on that album?
Yeah, he plays bass
Cauterize?
on. Yeah, he plays bass on that album.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. That's some good news.
Yeah, but he's a multi-instrumentalist,
Yeah.
so like his dad. So
He's probably been playing
yeah,
since like in the
yeah,
womb, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he plays bass in Van Halen, but his main instrument is drums and then guitar. So bass is what he plays in the band with his dad
Yeah.
and with Tremonti, but it's not even his first. It's not even his second instrument,
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing all those things on his solo record. So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, interesting. I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Is there a particular, maybe pick just a couple of things that's come in recently that you feel like chatting about for a few minutes and maybe playing a couple seconds of?
Yeah.
Always happy when it comes in and always happy to listen to.
Yeah, it's just
That thing's
so much good music on
yeah.
it.
Nice, super clean copy I can see there. The bright, clean, yellow, epic label there.
Yeah,
Are they considered R&B or funk or soul? I'd say more like
they'd
rock
be considered
soul.
Yeah, they probably more like soul rock. Yeah,
Soul
rock
rock.
soul.
I mean, it was like pop music at
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
for like,
big
like,
time,
but
yeah.
that was like when it
Well-
was like hippie pop music.
yeah, exactly. I think Sly purposefully was pushing the boundaries when it came to what he wanted to do. He was the first band from that era. You have to remember this is pre-civil rights era,
Yeah.
right when it was happening, I suppose. Right in the middle of all that, Sly said, "I'm going to put together a band that's going to show everybody." And
Well, I think what we need to do is just play a little bit. Here's the thing about this, Matt. I have a feeling Sly and the Family Stone could be its own show, just like
we're gonna have to
D'Angelo.
go there. Yeah, we'll just
So
play
let's
a snippet. Yeah.
let's just play a little snippet. Play like just a couple of seconds of like maybe one of your favorite songs off of here.
Sure.
Because How many albums did Sly and the Family Stone put out?
Let's see.
Probably more than D'Angelo, but not
Oh,
that
certainly, yeah. A shorter period of time.
Yeah.
But more, you
Yeah.
know.
So plenty to talk about, like for a whole. I imagine you'd be able to do a segment on them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So let me ask you a couple questions about this instead
Sure.
of getting into it too much.
Yeah.
What was in the order of like the albums that were released? What number was this particular one?
Let's see.
This is
Stan.
Sly and the Family Stone Stand! Exclamation
Let's
point.
see. That was number 4, I believe.
So
Let's see,
number
there
4
was,
out of how many?
There was A Whole New Thing, Dance Through the Music, Life, and then Stand. Yeah.
And then how many were after that?
And then with that same band, they put out a Greatest Hits, which was a combination of
The first four albums?
maybe not even the first, the second, third, and Stand.
Yeah.
And then they added 2 tracks on there that they were like new songs.
And that was it for that band?
And that was it. Well, no. Then he also did some material.
Okay, well let's just
we'll go there. Yeah, we'll go there later with Somebody's Watching You.
And of course, Stand would be like one of the go to as sort of like the more popular ones.
Right.
Everyday People was a big one, I remember.
Right. That was a big hit.
Sing a Simple Song was a big song.
Yeah.
I Want to Take You Higher, of course.
That was a
one
huge,
of the biggest ones, right?
yeah. That and Everyday People.
So you picked Someone's Watching You, which I've
Yeah.
never even heard of that one.
Oh, this is gonna.
It's just gonna blow my mind, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh man, 7. Right, lyrics. That last line was "Shady as a lady with a mustache." I thought that was so classic. Like, who comes up with that kind of stuff? Sly Stone, that's who.
Yeah, that can mean all kinds of things.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it's become kind of a mainstream kind of a thing. Let's play. You want to play one more quick one we could talk about for a few seconds?
Sure.
Find one of your favorites and one. I will tell you, as a customer and a client of the record store, the variety of music, obviously within the realm of like the times that record albums were made, it runs the gamut over here. So that's one of the beautiful things for someone like me, trying to get a little bit of everything from all the different genres and stuff.
And that's pretty much what my aim is, to cover as much ground as I can, genre wise, and what I think, not just what I like, because other people like other things, but I definitely want as wide a variety as music as possible, even if I'm always discovering new things to like, myself. I'm still, there's always so much music to hear and never enough time, right?
There you go. Yeah, I would say from the little bit that I know about you, there definitely, when I describe somebody to you, like I have a friend that owns a record store back in Ohio. I think I mentioned this group as one of the ones that was one of your favorites. I was just explaining to him about something else, and he was driving across the country, actually. I was asking him about podcast thing, about actually playing the music on the air. So I think the way that we're doing it over here shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Right.
I mean, we're just playing a few seconds of it, or a minute or so at the most. I mean, so are we playing this record right now? Yeah. Oh, I thought it was playing right now. Yeah, just put it on. We don't have to let
it just do what it's gonna do.
Yeah.
So this is People That Stopped the War. I just think it's
goes good with like Sly's Family Stone.
Same era,
Same era. This was maybe a few years after that.
Yeah. But just as gritty and just as funky.
Grand Funk Railroad, the E-Pluribus Funk, right? And I can say one thing about this: it's a round record. The record album.
That's what I love about
vinyl. Coin or something.
Yeah. That's what I love about vinyl, man. Just art, piece of art.
So that says right on here, 1972. So that must have been when it came out. I think.
idea
Yeah.
kind of where that one's at, man.
That was a nice way to like
Oh,
stop.
man. Right.
I love it. So
But,
anyhow, that's E Pluribus Funk.
yeah.
So that's so let's see. Let me see what else I had to chat about here. What's the big music news? What
Oh,
have you
man.
done musically these days?
Well, last night there was a great show in Seattle. D'Angelo and the Vanguard played at the Showbox, and that was an incredible show. It was like, it was like watching Prince in his heyday.
Nice.
But in the present, and it was just fantastic musicianship, and we do sell his new album, Black Messiah, here at the shop.
On
And-
vinyl.
On vinyl, that's right, and I play a copy here all the time, and
So why don't you give us a real quick synopsis of the D'Angelo and the D'Angelo career, because I'm somebody I've certainly heard of, but I'm not hip
D'Angelo.
and cool enough to like know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, he
Soul and R&B?
He's evolved quite a bit,
Yeah.
but he started out what they called neo soul at the time. He and Erykah Badu were probably
okay.
the first couple of artists that kind of earned that moniker, because their sound harkened back to the old soul sound, and so when his first album Brown Sugar came out, it was in the vein of some people said like Marvin Gaye and
nice.
Smokey Robinson.
Yeah.
It was reminiscent of that. It had a really smooth R&B kind of sound to it. You know?
There's some other people that come up since him that I've heard of that were kind of like in the same vein.
Yeah, a lot of people followed after him in that same style and had a lot of success. But him being who he is,
And what was the time period that he started out in?
1995, his first album
nice.
dropped.
So he
Actually,
probably influenced people like Amy Winehouse and stuff.
Definitely, definitely. Well, actually, even before that, prior to the Brown Sugar album, when he was only 18, I think he was signed to a deal, but he didn't put any album or any music out of his own, but he did write a song for a movie soundtrack, and the song was called "You Will Know," and it was performed by about 30 artists. It was called Black Men United, and it was like a big group of the popular
So they intentionally
singers.
got the top people, and they all did their own version of this one song. And they
No, they all were on it
kinda like a
together,
We
like
Are
a
the
We're the
World
World
type
type
of
of thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Nice.
he wrote this song that all these veterans were involved in, and current artists and so that his name was already out there. So
there's a record to look up. I've never heard of that.
yeah. But it was kind of a gospel-y kind of vibe, and everybody was singing. It was like a big choir, all the men singing. It was a good song, great tune, man. But Brown Sugar kind of established him as someone who was going to be around for a while, And
there's plenty of people when they were teenagers had written stuff.
Right, they had
even
some
as
hits.
back as like 40, 50 years ago. Steven Tyler, when he was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
He wrote songs. Did you ever hear Left Bank?
Yeah.
He wrote
Walk Away Renee and all
that. He wrote one of their songs.
You got to be kidding me.
It's not one of the hit ones, but...
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was told. Somebody could have been lying to me.
I'll have to look
that up.
We'll have to
look it up.
I have one of their albums, so I'll have to look and see if it's on that.
There you go.
Out of curiosity. But,
anyhow, I don't know. We'll have to kind of, as we figure out the format of the show. I mean, we could potentially just talk about D'Angelo, probably.
Oh, I guess for this one,
quite a while.
Well, I mean, with the Brown Sugar album, that album itself garnered several hits for him. The title track, Brown Sugar. There's another song called "Lady" that
was his album. That was after that big "We Are the World" thing.
Yeah. And it was his first record, and it was it was a big hit.
Was that kind of like
people,
on urban radio and stuff?
Urban radio, yeah. It was.
Do they even
definitely.
have urban radio anymore?
No, it's all blended in with pop now. And they don't even call it urban music anymore. I don't even know what they call it now. It's like rap,
pop music.
Or pop music. It's not even separate as. At one point in time, R&B and rap became so intertwined because you'd have R&B songs with a rapper on it. And it got to the point where it's almost like you have rappers who are singing now.
They do it half the time.
Right, so it's not even, a separate genre. They've kind of melded them together, unfortunately. But thankfully we have people like D'Angelo still around, and at his peak powers, it would seem to me at this point. But the one thing that disappointed a lot of people was he didn't drop another record until 2000. So
And what year was that first one?
95. So there was a 5-year gap.
That's very unusual.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but a lot of great artists do that.
It's not as unusual anymore.
Right. A lot of great artists have done that.
Yeah.
They spaced their records out. Sade, I think hers came out every 8 years. It was just
and it's always great stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, like some of the bands that you and I like that we talk about, even some of the old bands like Grand Funk and Rush and everything. And Rush put out an album every single year for like
some artists put
10, 12, 14 years in a row practically. Some years, 2 in the same year.
Well, I was going to say, James Brown was doing that. He was putting out several albums a year, and but the music industry worked differently then, and the artists had more.
Plus, there was only like 8, 10 songs on there that were 3 minutes long.
Right.
I mean, it was 30, 40 minutes instead of 80
There's a lot of filler, or you had less songs. You might have like 8 songs or something, even that maybe one song took up half the album or something like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but now everything is single driven. I guess again. Like that back.
So how was the crowd over at D'Angelo?
Oh, it was awesome, man.
Was it packed?
It was packed. You couldn't move. It was a sea of faces. Yeah, it was sold out.
Everything gets sold out now because that's the thing. It's
It's
a different world now. Yeah, so that stuff sells out quick. Plus the people in Seattle, they have a lot of money. I remember Jane's Addiction or something played like a month or so ago. No, and I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
yeah. And it was like $75, $100 a ticket.
That was D'Angelo. It was $85.
That's just like the going price now. Huh?
Yeah.
Shows
if you want to see,
out of touch I am.
If you want to see the heavyweights, you got to pay the price.
But who opened those? Is there an opening?
No, they played almost 3 hours.
So they played like 20 years worth of stuff in one night because
Well, it was not a lot of material. He didn't play a ton of songs. It was like probably played 10 to 12 songs,
It was like just a lot of
it was just a lot of long, extended. You saw extended grooves and jams and stuff interspersed. A lot of crowd interaction. You got the crowd chanting.
So it was definitely like.
Oh man, it
was definitely like a fan thing.
Yeah, it was a funk show for sure. But what's interesting to me the most is in '95, D'Angelo was totally just an urban artist, and his sound.
Out of where?
He was from Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia
is where he was born and grew up.
So he was an urban sound.
Yeah.
What about his sound?
And his sound evolved.
Yeah.
By the time his second album came out in 2000, Voodoo, came out. It sounded totally different. It was recorded solely. His first album was recorded in a regular digital studio, as far as I can recall, and he switched up his demos. A lot of people have said, those who've heard it, or like, and that are closely knit with him, like Questlove, the drummer for the Roots, has said that the demos of the Brown Sugar album are more pleasing to hear than the actual album because they were so raw and real,
Was he the drummer on that?
No, he wasn't.
But he'd heard all that
he'd heard
stuff,
it.
He's definitely got a guy like that's got the inside scoop.
But Voodoo became the album where he made his fan base, and he had a video that was kind of risque. It, just kind of, he physically evolved as well. He started out, playing keyboards behind, the keyboard and singing. So that was his kind of style, like Donny Hathaway or Stevie Wonder, two R&B greats. And by the time he got to Voodoo, he had already chiseled his body and all that, and was up front, and he was like a front man now, and he'd go back and forth between the keyboard and being up front, and doing both. So, but the sound evolved. It became more of a more funk infused than just R&B. It was the music was more grittier and very Sly and the Family Stone. It kind of would recall the album There's a Riot Going On, just based on the sound. It was kind of a murky, dark sound, and it was because he recorded everything analog and used all old equipment, and that kind of stuff, so and the songs were more stretched out and just more jammy.
And
you
how
know.
old was that guy at the time?
Let's see. At the time Voodoo came out, D'Angelo was probably about 25.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
he's still pretty young.
Yeah, he's pretty young, And then, the next album, that album solidified him. He was a bona fide star at that point,
Yeah.
And he was on TV shows and, performing with, all different kinds of artists and, like I know he'd done something with Eric Clapton. He'd jam with Eric Clapton.
Yeah, he was a
and
big deal.
David Sanborn.
I think he was on
and-
that. Might have been did it one of those BB King duets or
Yeah,
something.
that's correct. He played
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
He was on a BB King album as well, doing a
Yeah,
duet
yeah.
with him, and so he was busy. He's all
Yeah,
over the
D'Angelo.
place.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the name is somebody.
Yeah.
So what about after Voodoo? What was the album that came out after that?
Well, after Voodoo, there was a long period
Another
between Black Messiah and Voodoo. Yeah,
How
but
many
this one was
years?
even longer than the first.
Yeah.
He did a pop up from
Yeah.
time to time on other artists'
Sure,
album.
yeah, yeah.
Like he
He did like a guest spot. and
yeah, he
stuff.
do guest spots. Like he appeared on a Snoop Dogg song,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
singing a hook, and then there was
Yeah.
Raphael Sadiq from Tony solo record. He appeared on, and so there were
Yeah,
some
yeah.
things he sang on Common, the rapper Common's
Do they call that
song.
like the feature artist or the feature? Or no, they
Oh
actually-
yeah, it's featuring
Yeah, yeah.
D'Angelo or whatever. So there were things that would pop up and he'd
But
be
never
on
did
them.
his own record
But
for
his
a
own
long
records
time.
hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But there were always rumors. And usually they were fueled by Questlove from the Roots. Because he was such a fan himself, even though he was involved. Matter of fact, I forgot to
So
mention.
eventually he probably started producing them and stuff because he had a lot of money.
Well, I forgot to mention that Questlove, after the Brown Sugar album,
Yeah.
he was so blown away by it when he did hear it. At first, he kind of had been hearing about it, and he, according to him, he kind of put off wanting to listen to it. He would hear other people talking about it, and he's like, "No way, I'm not going to give this any thought," And then he finally got around to actually listening to it, and just blew him away.
Yeah.
And he realized what was here, and he recognized when he saw him live, I think it was, he recognized D'Angelo saw Questlove. They were at the same event, but separately.
Sure.
And I think they were on the Red Bull Music Academy together recently, maybe in the last couple years. And Questlove spoke about this, and he was saying, there was a gig the Roots were doing, and there's one part in the song where Questlove was able to throw in a beat from a Madhouse song, which a Madhouse was a jazz project that Prince did back in the late 80s.
Is that what was sampled or something?
No, he actually played the beat, the groove,
Yeah.
and he was testing D'Angelo, who was in the audience. He was testing him to see if he would, pick it up.
Yeah, nice.
And that was the slickest thing he could do, because right away D'Angelo jumped up and was like, "Yo!" and was like, he saw him. Questlove, said he saw him up there getting excited because he knew what it was, and then afterwards, because they were both. Prince,
These guys were obviously dialed in. Maybe they were just talking about a drum beat. Man.
Right. They were in the same. They spoke the same language. So
Yeah, I would say
from
so.
that point on, he was like, "Yo, this guy's got to be my drummer," and so.
So he played on the Voodoo
he
album.
played on Voodoo. He not only played on it, he co-piloted with D'Angelo.
I would imagine so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like a
Probably produced and mixed
yeah,
it.
they,
He's
yeah,
been
they
doing that stuff
yeah,
forever.
Yeah, they produced it together,
Yeah.
but he was like his kind of like, guy that he would refer, And,
Oh yeah, you go back and forth. That's the
Yeah,
fun way
yeah,
to do it.
yeah,
Instead of
you
one
know.
person doing
Right,
everything,
right.
it's kind of a drag.
Yeah, it's good to have somebody, to bounce
Yeah.
ideas off of, and so.
Well, especially people that have that kind
Right.
of symbiotic
Right.
relationships, like total strangers
Yeah.
that are obviously,
So then, after Voodoo and the tour, I went to see that tour. They played. I seen them in Oakland at the Paramount. I saw them here at the Pier when they were
So
doing
you
concerts.
pretty much seen them every time they came. huh?
Yeah. I didn't see him on a Brown Sugar tour. I missed him whenever that tour happened in the 90s, but I did see the Voodoo tour, and that was amazing. And it was just it was a weird thing. That video made him into a sex symbol, and I suppose that wasn't really what he was looking for. He wanted people to like the music, but
Sure.
You know, I'm sure the record label were, you know,
Oh,
were trying to
yeah,
find
well,
a way.
that's a whole nother
yeah,
topic. We
you
can
know,
talk about
right?
that.
Yeah, we'll have to do a subject of them at some point in time, but we'll keep it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But that's just our society.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to take a short break here, and Matt's going to answer the phone. Or not.
Time Tunnel Records. Yes. And
So you ready to go back into it?
yeah. So where was I?
We were probably talking about the period after.
Right.
We kind of talked about
yeah.
the relationship that was it
Questlove
Questlove
and,
and D'Angelo had built
Right.
up, and so they did the Voodoo album together. And
Yeah.
So we didn't get really too much past. Like,
Right.
what was the album that came up after Voodoo?
Well, there was this 15-year period that we have to talk about,
Yeah.
or 14 years.
Where he did a lot of guesting and stuff on other people's
Right,
tracks, but
yeah.
never put out his own thing.
Right,
Yeah.
and, you know, and it was, you know, over the 15-year period, you know, it's pretty sparse, even the guest work. But, you know, there were rumors of him working with other people. There's a British guy, Mark Ronson. He
Of course,
he actually
of course, that
produced.
guy's huge.
Yeah, he produced Amy
A British guy named
Winehouse.
Mark Ronson.
Right, right.
Had every hit song that came out in the last 5 to 7 years.
Right. Well, he and D'Angelo, you know, Mark Ronson spoke extensively about being in Brooklyn because D'Angelo was staying in Brooklyn at the time, and they were recording. You know, D'Angelo, he has a thing with another thing I forgot to mention before I get too far off, is that he is an avid Jimi Hendrix fan. You know, like he wanted to block, and he did block Electric Lady Studios for recording the Voodoo album, and it wasn't just him. It was like a whole collective of artists they called themselves the Soul Aquarians, and
they were going to re-record the album?
well,
or something?
no. They recorded at that studio.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that was like, you know,
That's where they recorded
there was a
it, so
fertile period in the
Yeah.
the early 2000s that they were working on different people's albums, Erykah Badu's album, Common's album, D'Angelo's album. It was like all these different artists were working on each other's records and
Yeah.
passing ideas around and whatnot, and it was like a collective, you know, creativity. You know,
He probably got some cred from, who's the Paul Allen? He's the Jimi Hendrix guy, probably was.
I don't know. I never heard any
Yeah.
kind of connection, but
I imagine that he keeps up with that stuff.
I would imagine,
Yeah.
you know.
So
But-
anyhow,
so Mark
he's,
Ronson and him,
Yeah.
they there was Mark Ronson spoke of D'Angelo and him working in his apartment, you know, and just coming up with stuff and working on, you know, probably an album's worth of material. But one thing that actually did get put out was on a Mark Ronson album, so that was one of the guest spots he did as
Oh,
well.
nice.
And he did a vocal on a track for
yeah.
a Mark Ronson album, yeah, you know. But you know, there was a lot of things that happened. He was playing, you know, just keyboards on, you know, pretty much in the first album, and then the second album, Voodoo, he did play some guitar.
So he was expanding his
so he was
horizons.
expanding,
He was
yeah.
Got
He
to
was-
be getting anxious and getting
yeah,
restless
yeah,
and stuff.
He was, and he was really
A true artist is
yeah.
always going to be
well,
expanding and stuff instead of doing
he was
cashing in.
Right, he was evolving. He was listening
Yeah.
to different music and
Yeah, neat.
getting turned on to Led Zeppelin and you know, Frank Zappa, and you know, it was just all these other kinds of music. You know, Beach Boys, Brian Wilson. You know, all that stuff was
all that hipster stuff.
yeah, all that stuff was coming across his
Yeah.
his Pink Floyd. You know, all that stuff was coming in his area code. You know, of his musical mind. You know, and so he was soaking it all in, and it was all being filtered through. You know, and every now and then, over the course of those 15 years that he was away, something would sneak out. You know, a track, you know, that was unreleased, you know, would come out somehow, you know, and one of them was in recent years was Soundgarden song Black Hole Sun.
Oh, he did a version
He
of
did
that. Huh?
but he remade it in a way that it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
you know, totally his own, and
Oh
you know,
yeah, well
it was
that's
brilliant.
real common.
Yeah,
a lot
you
of
know.
people do that
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, The only thing that would remind you that it's the same song is he says, "Black hole sun, won't you come and wash
Yeah.
the tears?"
Aside
He
from
says,
that, it
"Wash the
doesn't
tears
sound
away."
anything like
Right,
that.
right. It's like, you know, funked out, version, and really
So
slow
what about
down.
after that? What's he
So-
done since that?
Well, the album didn't come running right out. I mean, he started making a comeback in a way that was a really smart way to do it. He assembled a band,
Yeah.
and
He wasn't in any hurry. He
right.
Just, like,
he,
really
yeah, he is.
taking his time.
He wanted to be. He probably, after being away for so long, a lot of times, you have some songs, and the only way to really test them out and really get to know the material
Yeah.
is to take it on the road. So
Yeah.
he assembled a band, and they went and set up some dates in Europe, and he did a European tour and did a slew of shows, and
Tried out all
it was
new
to
songs.
rave. Some new, about 5 new songs.
Yeah,
He'd
gotcha.
sprinkle them out there, play some old stuff, and did a bunch of covers as well. He probably did a Funkadelic cover or two. One song that he did that really tripped me out was he did Space Oddity by David Bowie.
Nice.
He broke out the 12-string, and it was pretty cool to see him stretching out that far.
Yeah, especially for someone like him.
Right.
It would
right.
be a little bit more cliche for somebody like a
Yeah.
white rock band or something.
Right, yeah. You expect
Yeah,
Coldplay
yeah.
to do something like that,
Exactly.
but not D'Angelo, So it was cool that he was spreading his wings, because that's stuff that I like,
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
like, oh, man, that's what I would have done, So it was just really cool to hear him, just putting himself out there and not living up to the expectations of those people who probably only are used to him or want to hear him doing R&B, and he was expanding the taste of his audience, even perhaps, saying, hey, this is something that I'm into, this is where I'm at right now. But one thing I'll say is, early interviews, I remember seeing early interviews, it wasn't like he wasn't already thinking that far ahead. He already was. He had said in early interviews, hey, you call me Neo Soul today, but I don't really like to be pigeonholed, because I don't plan on just doing R&B music. I plan to just make music.
Yeah.
He said black music, whatever, but I'm not, just going to, don't expect me
Which
to just
of course
do
David Bowie is black music.
right. Don't expect me to do what you're used to, all
Yeah.
the time, So, that was pretty much the gist of what that was all about, So his evolving sound and ideas were, pretty cool to me, and it was great, because after the European tour, he came back to the States and did a few festivals. He played one in Philadelphia that Jay-Z put together, the rapper. He put together this Made in America festival, and it had all kinds of different artists, and then he played the Afro Punk Festival. That was another good big one for him.
The Afro Punk Festival?
Yeah,
Never heard of that.
Oh man, yeah. It's
Did the Bad Brains play at that?
I don't remember if they did. I know Fishbone played at
Nice,
it.
yeah,
Another
that
great
makes
band.
sense.
And then actually, D'Angelo's the group that he has assembled for that had Angelo Moore, the lead vocalist for Fishbone, come out and guest on. They did a cover of a Fishbone tune.
Oh, nice.
So that was
Yeah.
pretty cool to watch. But they also played Bonnaroo. It was like a super group, They always
Yeah,
have a
sure.
super group jam at Bonnaroo, and it was assembled by Questlove pretty much. On this one, he was the drummer, and D'Angelo was on vocals and keys, and different members of D'Angelo's band as well, and some from the other groups and whatnot.
All
from
you
like
really
the-
needed was D'Angelo and Questlove.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much,
you got it.
yeah.
But they did that.
And everybody else is a bonus.
Right, but
yeah.
the great thing about that was they were doing it was all covers. They didn't do any originals.
Yeah.
They covered some Sly Stone. They did She Came In Through the Bathroom Window off of
So they're doing
Abbey
rock
Road.
and soul and all blues and stuff. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, Beatles. They did
So what time
What
period-
Is and What Should Never Be by Zeppelin,
Yeah,
So
nice.
they were
Wow.
they were all
So
over
what
the
year?
place.
What year would this have been?
Around 2013.
So 2013.
That summer, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Questlove and D'Angelo just did a duo. They called it Brothers in Arms, and they probably did about 2 or 3, maybe 3 shows.
It's like drums and keyboards.
Yeah, drums and keyboards. And
Yeah, that sounds
D'Angelo
good.
was playing all the bass lines. He had 4 keyboards set up, and he was playing all the bass lines with his left hand and doing all the melodies and chords
And
and
then
whatnot.
singing on top
and
of it.
singing on top of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was like
Yeah.
a 3-piece band,
Did
but
they
it was
ever
just
record
2.
any of that stuff?
No, it was just them live. Yeah, it was just
Crazy.
two. Basically, what it was kind of showing how they came up with a lot of their ideas. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it would just be the two of them jamming, and they'd jam out maybe they'd do
Yeah.
they were doing other people's songs, and they would kind of vamp off, and then
Sure.
it turned into an original thing. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
they were
Well,
just
it's all
kind of giving
stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what
yeah.
real music is. I mean, when
Right.
people think about it too much, it becomes.
right.
Yeah.
So they were just giving us all a peek into the window of how the creativity gets going, and how some of that stuff comes
And guys
up.
like you who obviously really dig it were like
know
totally
all about
into
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally,
sweet.
man.
So that was 2013, 14,
yeah,
and then
and fast forward to and remember all this time there's prior to these shows there were rumors of Questlove would always plant some rumor out there and say, oh, the record's 97% done, and
Yeah.
two years later we're still waiting, so fast forward to December 2014 and all of a sudden there's an album title that appears, and on social media they start sending messages that the album's going to be titled Black Messiah, and it's like, whoa, wow, that sounds pretty powerful. So then this was on Friday. By Saturday there was a track already up for free download. So wow, by Sunday night the whole album was available for download off of iTunes. So he just
which is what most people
Snuck
do
it
now.
out.
Then they eventually
Yeah.
take it back down and then start
Right.
selling it. Yeah.
Right, but it wasn't a big build-up to the album is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Usually it's like a couple weeks in advance that the record company's got the thing churning and they're going to put it out. But it kind of happened. He sped the release of the album up by a couple weeks. Even the artwork was kind of off the cuff before the record because on the album, the artwork is actually people at the Afropunk Festival when he has a song called The Charade, which talks about police brutality and all that type of stuff that's been going on. And he asked the audience to, raise their hands, raise their fists, and as a sign of protest, And so that ended up being a black and white shot of that moment from the Afropunk Festival. Ended up being the album cover for Black Messiah, which is pretty cool, So not only do we have an artist presently making music that is reminiscent of, the old masters, but it's also socially, I guess, timed. The music came at the right time. I guess it just was fitting.
Great. So that was 2014 or.
Yeah, December. So basically this
So
year.
that was
yeah.
like within the last 9 months.
Yeah,
and so they're
yeah.
on tour and.
Yeah, they've been been touring pretty much the
place
last
was
couple
packed,
months.
sold out, totally
sold out
successful.
show. Yeah, they blew.
So D'Angelo
yeah.
still has it after all these years.
After all
huh?
those years, yeah,
Yeah.
he's got it all there. Everything was firing on all
And
cylinders.
he's only put out like 3 albums in
3
20
albums.
years.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, he's legendary.
Yeah, that's pretty classy.
Yeah, who else? He's like the J.D. Salinger of music. I thought everybody thought Sly Stone was, but the thing is, this guy he was able to come back, and it's amazing. He returned to top form. His vocals are still there. His musicianship is even greater than it was before, and
So do you want to grab is one of those records open back there or what?
yeah.
Should we put it on for a minute or something?
Why not?
If it's not any good, then that's we'll edit it out and put it in a good part. This is just kind of build up.
Yeah, this song is called The Charade.
Playing those bass lines.
Bass player is Pino Palladino. Yeah, he's an amazing bass player. He's been with D'Angelo since the Voodoo album.
That sounded nice.
Yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of
With our system
partial.
over here, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to tell.
It gives you just a bit of an idea of where he was going, versus what you were used to hearing before with the other material,
Great. Well, I think that was about at least 30 minutes on D'Angelo.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So what'd you think? Did
It
you
was
have fun?
great. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. So I've been doing podcasts for a long time, and I'd come in and talk to Matt, and I've been kind of missing having some kind of like connection with music. I played in bands and DJed for so many decades, and now I'm just kind of a fat old man, so I don't do much.
Oh, come on.
But I decided to ask him if he wanted to do this podcast and stuff, and I'm noticing some things that I can do to make it a little easier on us to probably get the quality of the sound and stuff, because there's a lot of up and down and stuff on here, and I don't want to spend too much time working on it.
It's a work in progress. This is the first time.
Maybe we'll even send this over to the guys at the radio station over there, and we can get us.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah.
I don't know if that means we just send our stuff in, or we go down to the studios, or what.
No, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think actually I like this better because it's in the record store.
Yeah.
We could probably even add video to this, so I can set up my camera in the corner. I don't know how interesting it would be, but if you put it on YouTube. Just another way, And you put stuff of, we put
segments
on the
website,
down, and we talk about how we talked about D'Angelo and then we talked about a couple of these records, and you kind of highlight that stuff. And maybe we'll figure out a way to
the fact that we're talking over them while they're playing too probably kind of takes it from being something that somebody is going to want to download and listen to. It's just kind of like in the background, kind of like, hey.
Well, I think we got it figured out.
Yeah.
So this is, we can either have this as a test episode, or this might be officially episode number 1 of
edit it up and see what parts you like.
Time Tunnel Records podcast.
Yeah.
This is probably a good enough name for it until somebody calls in, or somebody walks down the street here, but that's basically about it. So did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we? I think we're probably just getting pretty close to closing time for the record store, right?
It's time to sign off, I guess.
Try to sign off and close up the doors till tomorrow, and
we'll start over again.
Start shoveling through all the old vinyl. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl.
You're very welcome. I don't know if we have like a official we're out of here or bye.
Right. Maybe I'll have to find a good goodbye tune to put on as a closing for the show.
Well, let's put something on to close out the show with. So you pick something, just put something, and then just put it kind of wherever it just put it down wherever it lands, and that can be our outro for the show. In fact, I like that better than actually having a theme song, because maybe eventually one of our listeners could come up with a theme song for us, or you or I, or do it. So I imagine that there's a lot of musicians and stuff in the area. We could get somebody here in Burien, in lovely Burien on Ambaum Avenue.
For sure.
Yeah. What's the address over here?
14911.
14911 Ambaum Avenue Southwest, or
Ambaum Boulevard Southwest.
Ambaum Boulevard Southwest, and that's in lovely Burien. Is that 98166?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And then that would be TimeTunnelRecords.com or something, or what's?
TimeTunnelRecords.com, and that will take you right to our Facebook page.
Yeah. And then the phone number is 206 for Time Tunnel Records?
Yeah, 206-243-1579.
Okay, perfect.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Time Tunnel Records podcast. If you would like to become a part of our podcast team, suggest a future feature artist, or just say hello, you can stop by, come look through our records, CDs, movies, musical equipment, and other cool stuff. Email timetunnelrecords@gmail.com. Check out the website, Facebook page at timetunnelrecords.com, or call us at 206-243-1579. Thank you.